Good evening, everyone. This is Alan Rosinski from Metro Manhattan Office Space. I thought I'd give you all an update on the Louis Rossmann search for a new space. It was really an overwhelming response to yesterday's video, and I think this week is going to be really a critical week. I can understand Lewis's response to the super, but I think the real issues are going to come up in the next couple of days, hopefully be resolved. And those potential issues are reaching agreement on lease language and also understanding whether the economics and the timeline for the build-out are going to work for Lewis. Now, I've learned from my experience as a broker never to assume that any deal is going to occur until a lease is actually signed or any kind of sales agreement, this lease signature of any contract. It's very uncertain. So in the back of my mind, I have certain locations that could work potentially for Lewis as backup locations. And the moment there's any indication that we're stuck here, I'll show him additional space, and I'll probably even do that beforehand. Certain areas I'm looking into are Northern Chelsea, Murray Hill. There's also some, I think, relatively good value on the Upper East Side. Certain areas like the 50s near the Queensboro Bridge, there's certain blocks here, side streets, where there's a high level of vacancy, and there may be some good value. So I think 30th Street, in terms of the basic economics, is really good. But if the build-out costs are too high and the lease language can't be agreed upon, well, look, it's not the only space in the city, and we will continue. That being said, I am cautiously optimistic here. I viewed the lease comments, which Lewis's attorney, as a courtesy, sent me. And the attorney's done a really good job. And they've most every page has a critique, suggested modifications, deletions, what's relatively typical. Now, generally, what happens in this scenario is the landlord may respond to all the comments, or if the landlord or the landlord's attorney or the managing agent or whoever's reviewing the lease on behalf of the landlord, they may say, hey, these are too many comments for 2,200 or 1,000 or 500 square foot space. You've got 80 comments here. We want to see your top 20 comments. In some cases, this is valid because out of a review, there's going to be points which could really materially affect the tenant, and there's going to be points which are not so critical. But of course, a tenant is going to want the maximum number of issues addressed on a lease. Now, what would be very, very favorable here is if somebody on the landlord staff actually does the lease review. And I think it's possible that the leasing agent, who I know, who's a real pro, has a legal background. And he may invest the time and be accommodating and respond to most of the comments or all the comments. He may ask that they be limited. We will see. Now, I know there's many viewers who are going to think that this is very, very unreasonable, that every comment needs to be addressed. But I want you to keep something in mind. This is particularly true for small landlords. They don't have the ability to review lease language in-house. They send it to their attorneys who are familiar with New York City real estate, which is very, very particular. That can cost them $500 or $600 an hour. And if the lease language negotiation becomes an extravaganza, and it's 30 hours at $500 an hour, it'll cost a landlord $15,000. And some of them will just refuse. Maybe in a softer market, they'll be more accommodating. But it's important to always look at the landlord's perspective as well, and this is what's going to be in their mind. So if the leasing agent can review these comments and they don't have to hire an attorney, that's good. Also want to mention something. An advantage of doing a deal or negotiating with a very, very large landlord, often they have attorneys in-house. So they may be more inclined to review lease comments, particularly these large institutional landlords like S.L. Green and Vornado. But that's my take on the negotiation of lease comments. But what's going to be happening, I think, simultaneously, and it's going to be really key, is Lewis will be obtaining estimates on build-out costs and the timeline. So hopefully those numbers are going to be somewhere within the range that Lewis budgeted, and the build-out is not going to take more than the 3 months of free rent, or not much more. So we're going to see. But I do believe within a week or so, we're going to have a very, very good idea whether Lewis will be proceeding. Well, it's his take on it, of course, his decision. I'll do whatever he instructs me to do. But it's going to be clearer whether there's a deal to be made on 30th Street. And the moment he tells me to pull the plug and show him other properties, I have other properties lined up. So it's going to be very, very interesting. And I will from time to time give you my take as a broker to what the status of the negotiations are. I want to thank you for taking the time to view this video. If you find this content useful, interesting, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And in the event that you're looking for 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 square feet of office, loft, retail, or showroom space in Manhattan or the boroughs, please don't hesitate to contact me. Have a nice evening. Good night now.